Hey, what's up you guys? Century Productions here, and today I'm going to be reviewing the Masters of the Universe Classics Chief Carnivus action figure. So here we have the heroic feline warrior. First and foremost, got to thank Bob Audley for trading me this figure. I guess he didn't trade, he sold it to me. But thanks bro, it's in great condition. You're the best. XOXO, much love. Yeah, this figure's head came extremely loose. So I just got one question for Bob, the guy that sold this to me. How many times did you pull this dude's head off, bro? I'm just trying to figure it out because his head's so wobbly. But I watched a couple other reviews and it turns out that the heads are actually just wobbly. So sorry for getting all mad at you there, Bob, if you're even seeing this. But here we have Chief Carnivus from the 200X series. I have seen the 200X series. I don't remember him too much. I mean, I do remember seeing him in a couple episodes. But this is just, to the eye, I think this is just such a beautiful figure. I mean, even though it came out like almost 4 years ago, I mean, this thing looks like it almost came out a month ago. So Masters of the Universe Classics was definitely ahead of their time, at least by a little bit, with the Four Horsemen doing these figures. I mean, look at that head sculpt, man. That head sculpt is just beautiful. Look at how they sculpted the hair. Looks like we got multiple paint applications in there. As far as the paint application for the entire figure, there's not really too much going on. You can see there's maybe some shadowing in his loincloth. There's nothing really going on with his cape over here, but you can see the really nice paint application we got on these armor plates on his legs. I like the paint on his chest armor. Got these little red insignias or jewels or whatever you'd like to call them. I mean, everything's been sculpted on, everything's been painted beautifully. There's just so much detail to this guy. So it does look like he utilizes the Beastman mold, and since he came out around 4 years ago, that sounds about right. This is one of the first 200X series figures I think they did, and they did a terrific job on it. As far as the articulation goes, as far as Masters of the Universe Classics goes, you've never really been able to get like complete posability out of every single figure just because of how bulky everything was. You can see how bulky these legs are, how bulky the midsections are, and since they reuse a lot of the molds, that's the case for a lot of the figures. But that doesn't mean that they don't still look really good and you can't get them in certain poses. I mean, I can pose it real quick and we could have a sick-ass picture. Look at that from the back. That's sick, dude. So yeah, I mean, you still have a lot of options with this. I mean, his head is removable, so you can pull off his cape, you can pull off his armor, which is nice in case you wanted a shirtless edition of Chief Carnivus. As far as the range of motion goes on the head, it kind of gets a little hindered by the cape and the armor. Of course, if you didn't want that problem, you would just take the armor and the cape off, and then you get full range, full posability. But for the most part, I think his head still has a pretty good range. I mean, it can go forward and back and everything. So let's check out these accessories real quick, because I want to show you guys how nicely sculpted, how nicely painted these things are. And this sword is just really nice. These figures are pieces of art. I've always really liked the look of them. They've always reminded me of the cartoon. Just great figures. They're fun. They're just fun figures to own. They are one of the pricier toy lines, but if you pick and choose, and you get the right deals, I think you'll come out of it a winner with most of these figures. So really beautifully sculpted sword. I mean, you see we got the purple handle. It's just really nice. Fits in only his right hand because you're going to be reserving the left hand for the shield, which is this little number right here. And this is just beautifully sculpted, beautifully painted. It's flawless. It really is flawless. And I even like how they moved the arm part up a little bit so it covers a majority of his arm rather than only part of it. That's just good planning right there. So you can definitely see where their head was at when they were making this figure. I mean, they got a great team over there at Mattel. So and I would have never expected that so many He-Man figures would have came out. It's like Marvel Legends, but only He-Man. They just keep coming out with them. Unfortunately, I think next year's the last year for He-Man, or maybe it's just this year. I'm not really too sure. But overall, I mean, this is just a really killer figure. You can see all the little details that have been thrown into him. I mean, this thing is just awesome. It's just stacked full of, you know, color and detail, and it's just really nice to the eye. It just really is. As far as the articulation go, we know what's going on with the head here. We do have a piece of articulation at the diaphragm as well as the waist. You see this really nicely sculpted. Is that a snake or what is that? A lion guy? I don't know. well, it looks really good, whatever it is. I mean, look at these wristbands too, these little wristbands with jewels in them. Looks awesome. He truly is the heroic feline warrior. So we've seen the head, we've seen the diaphragm, we've seen the waist. Let's go into the arms. Pretty standard. The articulation hasn't really changed much over the years, but we got a piece of articulation up there. One at the bicep, one at the elbow, and then one at the wrist. So they never really focus too much on the articulation with these figures, but they put their efforts elsewhere, as you can see, and they just really go for it. I just love these figures so much. We go into the legs, and they pop out, go forward. Not too much resistance because of this loincloth, even though it is kind of a harder plastic than we see here on the cape, which is this soft, rubbery, bendable, maneuverable plastic, which is really nice. One point at the knee, go down into the feet, and these feet seem a little wobbly to me. I think the piece that is in between the gold and the foot, that brown piece right there, is just one of those really soft plastics, so it kind of gives this foot like a pivot a little bit, even though you can't really use the pivot because it's not really a pivot. But we do have a piece of articulation there. You just got to be a little bit careful with these figures. I mean, you should be careful with most of them in the first place. The shield likes to fall off too, by the way, if you didn't hear that. But overall, great figure. I mean, this is just really nice to the eye. I think they did such a kick-ass job on this. I mean, and it still holds its weight today. I mean, like I said, it looks like it almost came out last month. This is just an awesome figure. So this is Century Productions. Make sure to check out the description. I got lots of goodies down there. You can add me on Facebook, Instagram, all that good stuff. But in the meantime, have a good day and peace.